Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor. I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Now today I want to talk about something that's been very close to my kind of situation at the moment. Very close to the things that I do generally. Very close to the things that I have done in the past. For the most part, and also something that I've just ended up talking to people about again more recently, considering that we've got an awful lot of people going through retraining. We've got an awful lot of people going through additional training. We've got an awful lot of people going for training on a new job, essentially myself included in that. And as a result, one of the things that's come up in some of the stuff I've been talking about is kind of things that people can do as trainers to just have an easier time of it, to have a better time with it, to ensure that the people that they are training get the most out of it. And as a result, I kind of wanted to go just through this list. It's like seven, eight things long. Just because these are the things that, from teaching English as a foreign language to training people to do a job to training people through more of a coaching thing, whereby I've been, say, doing communication coaching with people, and so their training isn't necessarily a case of just this is what you need to learn, go learn it, then do. It's a case of, how are we going to work around this, and then training themselves and practicing what they have decided on to improve their overall situation. And so as a result, let's jump into this list. The first thing on the list, and this is possibly one of the most important things in my mind, and something that, especially early on, there were lots of things that I got taught in various training things whereby this just wasn't done. And so I was sat there kind of raising an eyebrow, and I still, I worked things out and I did it my way because I have never been content with authority figures. I've always pushed further as best I can to one degree or another. Sometimes easier than it could be, sometimes harder. But the first thing that you should do as a trainer is tell the people that you're training why what you are training them in is useful to them, why it's significant. Because otherwise, why should they care? You're telling them about some daft company values or some shitty old system that will probably get replaced in 6 months, or some outdated, nonsensical methodology that doesn't necessarily lean towards it being easy, but this is the way that they're expected to do it. But why? Explain, tell them, show them. You need to make sure that you're going right. Well, this is why we do it. Because if there isn't a why, then why should they bother? There's no compelling force. There's no mental rationale for them to follow that actually just reinforces the idea of actually there is a reason why I'm doing this other than just not getting told off. Because a lot of the time, people don't care about being told off, especially when it comes to jobs where they don't really want to be there anyway, or there are lots of other things going on, so little indiscretion, a little thing that they don't do properly is going to slip by, and no one's going to think of it as a problem, or it's not going to spring out at anyone until it's way, way, way too late and it's already caused a cascade of issues. So they don't care about a little telling off, they don't care about a little inconvenience or whatever else, but you want them to work in a certain way. That's why you're training them. In which case, tell them why. Make it just blatantly obvious. And there are some things where it's like, oh well, this is just how the system works. Well, fine, it might be how the system works, but then why is it a bad system? Oh well, it just is. Well, then why hasn't someone not fixed this? You need to tell them why the system isn't as useful as it could be, why it's not streamlined as it could be, because otherwise, again, it's not going to have any significance to them. It's just that it's broken and it's shit. Why should I bother with it? Take the time to expand on why the system is like that. even if the answer is as simple as we don't have the money to improve it, we have been slowly improving it in increments, and you are likely to see some of that as we go along, or whatever. There are different and useful things in regards to that. Now, there are a couple of limits to this. Don't start using things well outside of your sphere and try and make them significant. There are people who I know who have been on training courses who have been asked to do things way outside of what they're contracted for or what they signed up for on a course or anything like that. And yet it's a case of them going, well, you need to do this because we tell you need to do this. No, know where the line is. Don't send people so far outside the course that they may as well not be doing the course anymore. Don't send people so far outside the training that the training becomes just a kind of afterthought. Make it significant, keep it significant. The next thing is, as much as I said explain, don't lecture. You're not a lecturer. You're someone that's talking about the very specific purpose and the information that surrounds it. You don't need to kind of just throw out every little piece of information. And this is part of the problem with trainers that I've come across, is that they've got all this information and they want to share it, they want to show it, they think that because they have all that information and they can do something really, really well, that the other person needs to have absolutely everything. No, they need the mechanics of it and they need the why. They need the basic aim. That's kind of it. Yeah? Why are you doing it and how do you do it? Cut the line, just cut it off there. Because if you then start going into absolutely everything, all of the tangential bits and pieces, then you could leave them there for days and they are going to become less interested. They're not going to be engaged. You need to give them something that is this is how you do it and this is what we want you to do and why you do it. Go do. That's the long and short of it. There shouldn't be long, sprawling, open lectures, or especially not lectures where you're putting the other person down because you've got all this information and you're showing them how little they know. That's belittling and it's not good and it's often demoralizing and it can often draw people to wonder why that was even a thing. And I see that happening a lot, and it's unintentional most of the time. It's all well intentioned, but it's still a poor application of training skills. Simply put, get them to try the thing after you've given the basic information. Get them to practice, and then get them to test themselves. Get them to either be tested or test themselves. It's a simple kind of build up. You give them the information, the how. You give them the aim, which is essentially lining up with the why as well. So it's like we do the why so that we get the result. And then you just get them to try. And then after you've got them to try, you correct them, and then you get them to practice. And then after they've practiced for a while, that's when you ask them to demonstrate. Do not ask someone to demonstrate when they have not even done the training, because that only demoralizes them, and it is the thing that God knows how many people keep doing. It's bizarre, it's ridiculous, and it's impressing very negative and overbearing expectations on people way too early. At least give them the goddamn training first before going anywhere else. Anyway, next thing, and this is another important one, is that training is a very the training material rather is a very objective thing. It's a list of things that people need to know. Training in terms of the experience of training is a very subjective thing. Everyone is going to respond to it differently. People learn in different ways. I personally learn pretty well by doing. But I have a reasonable amount of kind of grasp on the kind of just listening and reading and watching someone else and then just copying. Yeah, I'm quite good at assimilating information and then applying it. Always been a strength for me, and one of the reasons why I like to think I'm a good coach, because I can listen, I can take that information on board, and then I can reflect it in a way that it makes a difference to the person sat in front of me. But there are some people, some of you guys even, who have come to me and gone, please write things down on either on the video or on a blog. Please put more stuff in the videos so that we can, there's a more visual representation so that we find it easier to learn. In terms of the visible representations, those are kind of tricky because I'm still learning all the editing bits and pieces and it takes a while. So that's been something that I've kind of put to one side. And in terms of the writing things down, I did it with the blog. The blog didn't seem to pick up much traction from you guys immediately. And so it has been one of the things that has sat on the back burner for a bit since I've become busier. So I have tried in some of these regards, and I want to get back to those at some point soon. But when it comes to someone in a very specific training environment where you have a select number of people in front of you, you have your course delegates or you have your trainees, you need to know and understand what people want from their situation, what people want from that training, what people want from what's going on. This is one of the reasons why in lots of training exercises or training days and things like that, they will get you to write down your objectives at the beginning of the day or before you join the course or something like that, so that they can go, right, this is what this person wants specifically. But then also you need to take into account, as said, different learning styles. If I'm going to go do training with people, then I'm probably going to have some kind of presentation with me. I'm going to be talking through it, and then I'm also going to have some elements, maybe depending on what the training is, it might be difficult to do, but there is going to be some element of getting up and doing the thing that we are talking about. If it was something like till training in a shop or something like that, that might be more difficult because obviously you need the till in front of you. And if you've got like 20 delegates, then or 20 trainees, then it could be really difficult to get everybody to handle going through the till, putting a transaction through, seeing how it works, just due to numbers, space, all that kind of thing. But when you in most situations, you need to try and pull up as much generalist stuff as possible, or if you've got a very small group, actually have a conversation with them first to find out what it is that they do, how they operate as people, and then apply yourself to those to give them what they need and what they want. The next thing is you need to be, as a trainer, you need to be very mindful of your own performance. I don't really like the word mindful, but because it gets taken in so many different directions by so many different people. But you need to be very aware of yourself, of the way that you are operating, of your level of performance. And one of the best ways to do this is literally ask the people who you are training. Check that you have all your information right. Sure, that's fine. That's easy enough to do. That's just cross-referencing exercise. But when it actually comes to whether or not your training was effective, whether or not your training was useful, talk to the people in front of you. Talk to those people. At the end of my coaching sessions with people, I tend to turn around and go, okay, so how did we do? Yeah. Was I too forthright? Did you get a lot out of this? Was this a positive thing? How are you feeling afterwards? Are you feeling good? Just to try and work out if I've empowered that person, if we've come to a good place for them to work from, if I've done what I agreed with them to do. Have I held them accountable in the way they wanted me to? Have I asked questions in the way that they wanted me to? All that kind of thing. And then, I can also afterwards just double check on whether or not that was just them saying it, or whether they've applied themselves in the way that they said they would. You can check that stuff. That's really easy. It's results based. It's not difficult to just check in on how well you're doing. But it's like a lot of people just go, oh, well, I've got this course to teach now. I've got the things written out. I don't need to double check on whether or not they're working for people anymore. I don't need to check if I'm good enough anymore. I've got this package that I'm doing, and then I just deliver the package and then I'm done. Yeah, and that's not good enough. You need to check over your material. You need to make sure it's still relevant. You need to make sure that you are applying yourself and presenting the information and getting those people involved and trained and informed in a way that works for them, because if it doesn't work for them, then they're not going to get trained. Simple as that. They're not going to receive the training. They are going to be in the area that the training is being given, but they aren't really going to take it on board. So the next thing, in regards to kind of your performance to a degree, but stuff that I was saying around it, you need to be knowledgeable. Because if you aren't knowledgeable, then you are going to get curveballs thrown at you. And the going, I can check. When you're in a training situation, you might only have that one day of training. It's a case of going, no, you need to have a good depth of knowledge. You need to have that good overall knowledge, but also you have to have the specific depth of knowledge, on very tight kind of clusters of topics, all of which that relate back to the initial training, because that way when you have curveball questions thrown at you and stuff like that, you're going to show why they should listen to you, why you've got all this information, how you've got all this information, and why it's worth applying to things. They may very well see you as an aspirational figure to kind of follow on along behind, or it might just be a case of something as simple as, if they run into trouble, then they know that they can come to you and ask a question, because you are likely to have an answer. Good trainers train people on a lot of different things. The same way that good coaches have the capacity to coach on a lot of different things, even if they've got their specific niche. And so it's you are helping others progress through your training. That is the objective. And sometimes you need to have a much wider range of knowledge and a much wider range of skills to apply. You need to be knowledgeable. You need to have that depth of knowledge, understanding, and especially knowledge and understanding of, again, the people that are in front of you and the way that you need to present that information for them to take it on the best. Now, the next thing kind of leads on from that, is that, and that is that not life coaches, trainers are most effective when they themselves are always learning. If you are always learning, if you are always learning and teaching yourself new things, if you are always learning and appreciating the new things that you learn, applying the new things that you learn, then you are usually, if you've got that kind of capacity to do it, you tend to be eager to learn more things. You tend to take things on board in a way that's just very level-headed and reasonable, rather than getting upset if you don't know something or whatever else, which there are an awful lot of trainers, awful lot of teachers, awful lot of people in kind of positions of power over knowledge and over the presentation of knowledge, who, when they get something wrong, they lash out, they become mean, they become nasty, especially if they are proven wrong, especially if there's no wiggle room, there's no debating the point, it's just that they are wrong. They are the worst kind of trainers, because they instantly ruin other people, and they tend to be the kind that, as I mentioned earlier, has their one course structure that they teach, and that's it. And they don't refresh their notes, they don't go over things as much as they are allowed to get away with not going over things, and they just believe that that's all they have to do. I've worked with some people like that, and they are horrible. But a trainer that comes in and is always learning, always teaching themselves new things, always allowing themselves to be taught, they can take away not just those great new skills that they've developed because they are learning all the time, they can take away those other cool new ways that people have taught them things and apply it to what they're teaching other people. Yeah? Love research, love reading books, love going out and doing new things, love going and being taught by people, love teaching others. Because also, one of the best ways for you to keep learning is to teach other people what you are learning. Yeah, it solidifies it in your head. And so it's the people who are most interested in life are also tend to be the people who are most interested in people. And when they are that kind of person, they are more inclined to also be able to help people learn and progress more effectively because they want to do it at the same time. What new, always go into, as a trainer, you should always go into a new training session, a new class, whatever, with the idea of, yeah, you're there to teach, but what can you learn from those other new people as well? Yeah, you've never met these people before. You should be learning things from them also. And that's the next thing that's kind of important, but something that has more wiggle room than some of the other things that I've talked about so far, and that is that an effective trainer will plan ahead. We've already kind of touched on this with, prior to doing a course, you should be asking people for objectives. You should be checking the way that they kind of learn and things like that. You should be always learning yourself. You should be checking your performance during and in between kind of training sessions to make sure you're on the level and that you're actually helping people. But also, as I said, the reviewing of your own work shouldn't necessarily be going on before or only just after you've delivered some material. It should be going on beforehand. You should be going back, oh, well, I finished last term, or I finished the last intake 6 months ago. Now we've got another one coming in. Before I even think about throwing out the info packs to people to invite them to the course, or to invite them to the training day or the induction or whatever it is that they're doing, I should go over my own material and make sure that it is top notch. There are a lot of people, again, that, as I said, don't do that. They will go, I've got my PowerPoint presentation, I've got my little script, I've got my little book of trivia or whatever, and so I don't need to go and do anything else. I just need to take it and deliver it. Now, in my case, when I've been doing training, it depends on the training. But kind of like with you guys where I present through the videos here, I tend to have I might have a PowerPoint presentation, that's quite likely, but it's a case of going, right, well, I've got my bullet points on the desk in front of me, I've got the things in the PowerPoint presentation that I've put there in the order that I've put them in, so I've essentially got two different sets of cue cards that I only need to glance at, I don't need to kind of read through. And so then I can apply my own information, I can apply the knowledge and skills and the things that I have done in the past to then help those people and contextualize what we're learning and give them reason and all of that kind of stuff, rather than some of the trainers that I've seen that will stand behind a podium. They won't come and talk to people, they won't go and move around and check everyone's okay, they won't just become part of the group. They will stand behind their desk, or they'll stand behind their little podium or whatever it is that they happen to have. And they will stay there and they will just read off their script, occasionally clicking through their PowerPoint or whatever other presentation that they've got. And that part of that is that, yeah, sure, they might have planned ahead, but they've not planned ahead to the extent that they can then apply themselves to the training session. They've planned ahead insofar as they have a script, they have a presentation, but it's not enough. You need to internalize a lot of that information so that you can present it effectively, so that you can discuss it with people, so that you can get them interested, so that you can become part of that training group, because they should be your trainees. You should be there with them, going through everything. You should be their guide as part of their group, not as some outside source trying to nudge them in the right direction. It's far less effective that way. There is a reason why me as a coach going in, I try to assimilate or just join in on the team. I am willing to socialize. I am willing to get to know those people, be their friend to a degree. Obviously there's a professional division in there, but you get to know those people. You learn about those people, you empathize with them, you get them to empathize with you, and so that way they're more willing to learn as well, because you're part of that group. But anyway, the last thing is that you need to be consistent. Good trainers will start at a very sensible point, usually the beginning, and then they will progress forward at a consistent and reasonable pace. Yeah? And they will check in regularly. They will ensure that there are reviews and summaries of the things that have gone over regularly. They will sit their audience down and literally dunk them in the material that is being learned, in the topic or in whatever it is, and then they will continue to just evolve that, allow those people to just appreciate it bit by bit, building up over time in a very consistent, straightforward, and predictable manner. The worst kind of trainers are the ones that are so inconsistent they throw curveballs at you. You will sit down and go, right, this is what we're learning, and then half an hour later they will tell you something completely different, and you do not know how you got from point A to point B. This is why it's a good idea, if you are a trainer, if you are someone teaching someone else anything, have a little agenda, just so and show them what it is, just so that you can go through those points and go, right, this is where we're starting, this is where we're going, and this is where we're ending. It's not difficult. You should have that kind of thing as part of your presentation, or at the very least you should be able to create that kind of agenda from a presentation or something like that, because all your topics should already be in a certain order. So it's not difficult to do, but again, it's part of that planning ahead thing. It's part of that making sure you review your work, you review your material. It's something that a lot of people just don't want to take the time to do. But anyway, guys, that's the 8 things that I personally feel are incredibly important as in terms of being a useful and effective person as far as training and teaching other people is concerned. Some of these can be difficult. Sometimes being consistent, especially if there's something brand new that you've only just got to grips with in the training, then you might have to put that in weird places in the training, even if it kind of makes some sense. It probably doesn't overall. Sometimes that can be difficult. It can be very difficult at times to kind of get a good grasp of everybody's needs before you start, because that's often dependent on them coming and talking to you, and there are a lot of people that just won't do that. So it's a kind of swings and roundabout situation to a degree in some parts, but overall these are the 8 things that you need to do to be an effective teacher, trainer, kind of member of HR staff doing development, or a member of a management team doing an induction for new employees, stuff like that. These are the things that you should be doing. If you're not doing them, why not? You should have a good reason if you're skipping out on some of these things, because all of these things are just good ways to help people learn. And if you help them learn, then it helps you. It means you don't need to retrain them. It means you don't lose staff off their probationary period because they haven't completed training, or because they're just shit. You've improved all of those people by getting them involved, by giving them those bits of information, those bits of context. And then it should diminish the number of people that don't make it through things like probationary periods or trial periods, and then you'll see who is legitimately the people that either need to go, or the ones that are far too much hard work. It's a difficult set of situations when you've not trained them properly, and yet then it comes to kind of confirming their contract after a probationary period, and you can't tell if it's because they're just not trying hard enough or whatever else, or because your manager's just shit at training or whatever else. It's a kind of difficult one, but there are an awful lot of managers as well that just don't feel that they can be wrong. When it comes to them training, if someone hasn't taken the training on board, or if they haven't come up to hit certain targets, or aren't up to scratch by the time their probationary period ends or something like that, then it's just the fault of the individual. No, I can quite happily say that for a good number of times it's not just the individual. A lot of the time there's at least some fault on the part of the people doing the training, and usually doing the training quite badly. But again, this is why you need coaches, this is why you need trainers, and this is why it's such a damn shame that in the world that we live at the moment, things like HR training, coaching, stuff like that are some of the first things to get cut when a company needs to save money. When, if you think about it, better trained staff who are more multi-skilled, more soundly competent and confident in their abilities will usually save you money and time. So, you know, it's all a big clusterfuck, really, in some areas. But again, these are the 8 things that you should probably be doing to help your trainees or your course delegates or whatever learn most effectively, and, you know, kind of just best practice for you. But anyway, guys, that's enough of me rambling off the end of this list. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the video later. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video or found it interesting, please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the video later. Take care.